Dan Hurley may have to dive back into the portal. After all, you're Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Do me a favor, see that little button on the bottom of your screen, click subscribe, helps our channel grow, helps our audience grow, and frankly, I truly appreciate all of your help. It's invaluable to me and to the Locked On Podcast Network. Well, just when you thought it was safe to go in the water again, we'll watch a very bittersweet performance at the NBA Combine in regards to Alex Karaban going white hot from three, making 14 straight hits at one point, and doing what he excels in and what may catch a team's eye to bring him in as a late first-round pick. The Dallas Mavericks could have used a couple Alex Karaban three-point shots last night to stave off the Thunder. So while I wish Alex the best, and I truly mean that, much like our sponsor, LinkedIn, if we lose him, the job has to be posted within 24 to 48 hours. Much like any of us that work a job that's 9 to 5 or however you make your money, if you were to unfortunately be hit by a bus tomorrow, they'd feel very sorry. They would likely have a memorial for you, but you are going to have a job posted. They'll post it within 24 hours. So all the touchy-feely stuff that we feel for Alex Karaban, all of the platitudes, and they're truly not platitudes, all of the things that we truly feel for him and his family in wishing him the best, that's 100% true. And it's, as I read an article today, it's truly win-win for Alex Karaban. But I think, for one, replacements, if there is one or two, are already on campus or about to be in Jaylin, Stewart, and Liam McNeeley. So Coach Hurley and company may not think there's a need to bring anyone in that that they need to make a splash. But stranger things can happen. So let's talk tiers of this. So if we're back in the portal, the first tier guys, I'm going to talk about 6 potential replacements for Alex Karaban, 3 of which are kind of hypotheticals, and they all are. This is all hypothetical. Alex may literally say, no, I'm coming back. I know I had a great experience at the Combine, but one more year at UConn is going to make me, a first-round pick or whatever the case is, whatever they tell him. So these guys that I mentioned in the first segment of the show are immediate impact guys who would take away minutes from guys they double down on. So I think the way to look at it before I start mentioning names is 2 things. If they do get word from Alex Karaban and his people that they are, in fact, losing him, how that kind of resonates with the team can be looked at a couple different ways. One, that they already have their team set. And the contingency is for our second segment of the day, which is the tier 2 Alex Karaban replacements. Or it's checking in on impact players, but of varying styles of play. So for example, there's the impact player that is likely going to require bigger minutes and be scoring threats similar to what Alex Karaban does. And the first one that comes to mind is Coleman Hawkins. Illinois kid, got a chance to see UConn machine up and close and personal with that 30-0 run in the Elite Eight. Played on an Illinois team that was talented, but probably lacked discipline, and ultimately felt the full weight of the UConn Huskies, like I said, in the East Regional Final. This is what the NBA scouts think of Coleman Hawkins, and I think they're pretty spot on. He's a high-energy, intense power forward, possesses an all-around skill set, very similar to Alex in that respect. Impacts every aspect of the game. Sounds familiar. Versatile and aggressive defender. A little bit more on the defensive side, so definitely would be a plus over Alex from a defensive perspective. Inspires teammates with his warrior mentality on the court. Okay. Effective at guarding in space and switching onto guards. I love that aspect of him, being able to kind of switch off to players just because he's tall. He's probably closer to 6'11". Doesn't mean he actually is a true power forward or a center. Can compete in the paint against bigger opponents. Yes and no. A little bit slight of frame, 225, 230 pounds. Strong ball handling, which I love. That's what's going to make him an incredible NBA prospect. And has a decent outside shot that is expected to improve. So maybe that's where he comes in and says, look, I've seen what you've done with guys who can stretch the floor. I'd love to work on where I'm actually a really good shooter versus just open shots. I think that's, again, if you're new to this show, Luke Murray, Dan Hurley have talked about hot spots and where guys excel. It's why our players are more efficient. We look for points per possession, not just open looks. So there's a potential for outside shooting to become a key asset at the NBA level, and that's where he's trying to go. He's got 4 schools interested in him right now. No little schools here. You got North Carolina, Kansas State, Arkansas, and John Calipari creeping around the corner in Louisville with what's his name? Pat Kelsey, who a good young coach, a lot of energy. So those are 4 formidable, teams, and he would fit in like nicely almost in every one of those spots. But maybe if they lose Caraban, Coleman drags his feet, they can send some feelers out and swoop in and see if he's interested in a visit. Stranger things have happened. Like I said, these are all hypotheticals. And yes, would it be send shockwaves through the roster? Likely. But I think you'd also have to look at it from a perspective of, look, guys, this is in essence, it's a business. We doubled down on you. You're going to get minutes because we expect you to be the type of players that we recruited in here. But this guy's available. He can help us win. And like we talked about before, bringing in a player doesn't automatically give them minutes. We don't guarantee anything at UConn. I don't think Dan Hurley will ever operate at that position. The next on this list is kind of an opposite end of the spectrum type of player. Dillon Mitchell, former 5-star from Texas, played at Monteverde. Also, same as Liam McNeeley, 6'8", an explosive athlete with great length, has a high-level defensive instinct. So we're going opposite end, taking Alex Karaban and kind of doing, almost like a defensive specialist. He can guard on or off the ball, switch up and down the lineup, can play center at a small position. He can handle the ball, make plays as an initiator out of pick and roll, kind of like an Oso Iguodala. His jump shot is inconsistent, so that would be something he would need to do, but he gets side rotation on it. Needs to gain confidence in his stroke to make it an actual weapon. He's fantastic in transition. He's a good cutter, scores off movement, can play out of the dunker spots and that pick and roll opportunities. Very efficient on offense, knows who he is. He is not a shooter. So, but we all, listen, I would love for everybody to be a 3-point threat, but we all can't be. Plenty of shooting on this team. Miami is interested in him. He's taking an official visit there. We did beat them out for Cam Spencer. And again, this would be a change in course, but like anything in life, adjustments have to be made to accommodate. And having more talent isn't a bad thing. A former 5-star elite athlete isn't a bad opportunity to basically have as the 10th player on your team. And then this is another intriguing prospect, the final one of this first tier that's still available. Achor Achor. He's a Southern Conference kid. He played for 2 years at Samford. He's a project. He was a 0-star recruit out of college, but he's a 6'10". At the next level, meaning Power 5, he averaged 16 points per game, 6.5 rebounds and 2 blocks at Samford. I don't know if you watched the Samford-Kansas game. I think he fouled out, but this is a kid who shot 56% from 2 and shot 44% from 3. Very intriguing would be a word. Not a guy who would push for minutes right away, but likely is going to be. He's a fiery competitor. I don't necessarily know if he's the profile they're looking for, but definitely a power forward. Would totally get pushed around as a center, even though he's 6'10". At the next level, you could potentially bring him in, stash him away, get him in your system where he can be featured next year. So right now, the only official visit is Auburn. So Bruce Pearl taking a gander at Achor Achor. Again, really intriguing prospect. Definitely check him out. Could be a fit for the Alex Karaban replacement if Alex continues to kill it at the combine like we think he should. So we're going to talk about maybe some tier 2 replacements, guys who wouldn't really be competing for minutes, but again, really, if they're going with all of their guys that are coming back, they're doubling down on them, and they don't want to make a splash with some more kind of higher touted players and not, take away minutes from their guys. We'll talk about those fellas after this. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. When you're building your dream team for your small business, quality professionals are key. That's why you need to tap into LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs isn't just another job board. It's your secret weapon to find exceptional talent, including those who aren't actively looking or hunting, but could be the perfect fit for your role. Let me tell you, when I needed a marketing whiz for my business, I turned to LinkedIn Jobs. Within days, I had a list of top-notch candidates eager to join my team. LinkedIn made it effortless, and as a former small business owner myself, I understand the juggling act. LinkedIn gets it too. They're always innovating to make hiring a breeze. They've even rolled out tools to help you craft job descriptions faster than you can say hired. Did you know that 86% of small businesses snag their perfect hire within 24 hours on LinkedIn? It's no wonder 2.5 million small businesses trust LinkedIn for their hiring needs. Stop searching in the wrong places. Visit linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. LinkedIn Jobs, for small businesses hire pros like a pro. Terms and conditions apply. All right. So as we look at the Alex Karaban conundrum, I saw my buddy Little Red post something about with Michael Bolton. How am I supposed to live without you? And it's just a funny clip of that song. And honestly, we'll be fine without Alex Karaban. He immediately makes us a serious title contender if he comes back. But who do the Huskies get if Alex Karaban continues to impress and gets himself that first round grade? So let's kind of snap back into reality here and see who is available that really are kind of lunch pail guys who wouldn't cost much from an NIL perspective, who would be guys who are expected to push the very young, talented Huskies, get minutes if anyone got hurt, God forbid, maybe the 11th or 12th person on your team. Doesn't have to be a 4 or a 5-star. These just have to align with the program's values and kind of core principles and have them buy in. So playing time is definitely not guaranteed for these 3 potential transfers, as it wouldn't be for the 3 I already mentioned. So the number one guy that comes across doesn't look like he has a ton of options at the moment, and we're all very familiar with him as the Big East folks. Supreme Cook, cool, maybe the coolest name left in the portal. Maybe Achor Achor might be number 1, but I mean, I don't know who named this kid, but that's just a phenomenal name. He's a former Fairfield Stag, a former Georgetown Hoya. Cook was an every game starter for Georgetown during the 23-24 season. Don't let that, automatically skew you to thinking, well, he automatically is going to have to come in and start. Yes, it was nice that he averaged 10-8 in the Big East across 27 minutes. Cook previously spent the 3 seasons with Fairfield before playing for the Hoyas last year. He'll now look for his 3rd program, which is not uncommon these days, where he'll have 1 year of eligibility remaining. So this could be a program where we sell him on, spot minutes. He has some red flags, even though he was a starter. The Hoyas are a terrible, terrible program right now. They needed him to. I don't think he's a starter at a high quality, high major, especially not a program like UConn. But if he could buy into being a place setter, potentially getting minutes here and there, spots, right? Be a physical presence. I could see him having a place in this non-traditional offense that emphasizes the great 2s and the kick out 3s, the ability to kind of use his body as a screener. I don't remember him being much of a passer out of the post, but I don't think he would get too much post, presence here. Unleash him on offensive boards for tap backs, put back dunks. But maybe that's not where they go. Before we get into our last 2 names, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. These next 2 are 100% 11th guy, 12th guy on your team, vibes guy, push the bigs, be a practice guy, be a garbage time guy. Lance Ware, former Villanova Wildcat, took this one. Is simply just connecting dots. He's played at a blue blood already at Kentucky. He never had the skill set to play big minutes at UK or Villanova. Has 1 year left of eligibility. He'd be a low maintenance guy. Practices hard, pushes the young guys. Toughen up Zingari. Toughen up Terrace Reed Jr. He's also from Camden, New Jersey. Was a 4-star recruit in 2020, so there's some pedigree. So they check in here if Alex leaves and Lance is out of options. He can go play pro ball overseas, but 1 more year in college would likely pay the same, and also would be a lot of fun to be on a UConn team that's looking for a third straight national champion. This one is another one kind of out of the box. They've mentioned international players. They've mentioned, projects. Also not a guy that is without his own red flags. I think Lance Ware might be the biggest conservative and also, checks the boxes the most if they go there. But this is an intriguing one. Another Liam, I think I'm saying this right, McChesney, a 3-star recruit out of high school by 247 Sports. He was the top high school college prospect in Canada as a senior, the 31st best power forward in his class, 178th best overall prospect in high school. Played right here in my adopted home state of North Carolina as an international player who's a project. By the way, he played at High Point University, but this would be his 4th program in 5 years. That's the red flag. He played it. He committed initially to Utah State, then he transferred to Illinois State, then finally now to High Point. He is now in the transfer portal. He'd be a 3 or 4-star transfer, not going to be competing for minutes. Just another guy again, total placeholder. I think the thing I like about him is big kid, but can stretch the floor a little bit of a shooter. He's average at almost everything that you look at. And if anyone is a Liam McChesney fan and they want to be upset about that, I apologize. But this is the type of guy that I think they're going to go after. This type of player, a Lance Ware. Supreme Cook is probably like the top tier of a second tier replacement, if that makes sense. But these types of players are out there. They're going to be at the low major level right now. Guys who are willing to come in and go through the paces that Dan Hurley puts these guys in, get themselves, in a program that is really going to kind of push them physically and mentally, and maybe get them ready for life after basketball or life after college basketball. I think everyone has an opportunity if they play at this level to go play pro someplace overseas, but some people don't want to do that. So maybe it propels them into some kind of college coaching ranks or just coaching in general. So those are the guys I've been looking at. It's not, they're not sexy picks. Even the hypothetical 5-star and 4-star recruits from segment 1. I don't know if those are all fits for Dan Hurley and his staff, knowing, what they're looking for, but it's intriguing. It's also kind of last minute, right? But contingencies have to be made if Alex Karaban continues to impress in the combine and he goes 28th overall or 30th overall, or even if he is an early second rounder, and those guys are typically protected pretty well. It's the late second rounders that typically have a harder time making rosters. So we'll talk combine mistakes and all things UConn NBA combine coming up after this. Okay, we're back on Locked On UConn. First off, how do you screw up measurements in an NBA combine? Initially, they had Steph Castle measured at 6'2", and they cleared it up today. He has his combine measurements were 6'5" without shoes. We'll get into that in a second. 208 pounds, 6'9" wingspan, and an 8'6" standing reach. Finding out that he was actually confused with Devin Carter's measurements of Providence. Not only did Devin Carter steal Tristan Newton's Big East Player of the Year, but he also tried to steal Stephon Castle's draft combine shine. So typical Providence, always taking L's, always a step behind UConn. But can we talk about something that is so freaking silly? Measuring at the combine without shoes. The minute we play a game without shoes, I'll take that seriously. I've had this conversation and this argument with a good friend of mine. He's a comedian. His name is James Hodge. If you like comedy, go check him out. James and I will joke around because he'll always say, "What are you, like 5'8"? And I'll be like, "No, dude, I'm 5'11". And he's like, "Oh, okay, you're measuring with shoes." And I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm wearing shoes, and I'm actually probably 6 foot with shoes on. Without shoes, standing flat, I'm probably 5'10". I haven't done it in a while. If I'm shrinking, maybe I'm 5'9", whatever. But who cares? The only people that know how tall you are like, my wife and kids see me without shoes on. If I'm going to work, if I'm going to the gym, if I'm in in the presence of anybody other than my own home or at the pool or the beach, I'm wearing shoes. I don't get that. I'll never get it. I'll never get that aspect of the combine. Anyway, I digress. UConn's combine performance has been nothing but incredible. Kind of shows how amazing these guys really are. In particular, look at these numbers that stand out. In the moving 3-point shooting, you had Steph Castle was 18 for 25 from 3. Alex Karaban, a white hot 21 of 25. Cam Spencer was 18 of 25. Tristan Newton was 17 of 25. And Donovan Clingan was 14 of 25. So even though Donovan didn't shoot as well as the guards and wings, thought that was pretty impressive for a big guy. How about Tristan Newton being 17 of 25 from 3, but also some interesting stuff with him. I read this morning that his agent has advised him that he isn't playing in 5-on-5 scrimmages today or tomorrow at the combine. They said he's saying that it's best for him not to play, that it's not really going to enhance anything from his draft position, that the past 2 years have been good for me, and we feel like the film speaks for itself. So a little bit of gamesmanship there. I don't agree or disagree. I mean, I'm sure I'll get comments as to, "Oh, that's ridiculous," or "Yeah, that's smart." It kind of reminds me of, NFL draft guys not throwing because their film is their film. Me throwing in shorts now against, nothing isn't going to, take away from live action. So, to those that think that he should compete against the folks that are there, I see that argument. I also can see the argument of, I'm probably not going to be a first round pick anyway. So let me interview well. Let me show my ability in these individual drills, and let the chips fall where they may. So that's the Tristan Newton news. I haven't gotten much on Cam Spencer other than his shooting numbers and that he's done well. Although there was an interesting report about him being in a drill and someone hearing a loud obscenity that rhymes with yuck. I'll let you guys think about that for yourself. And then the reporter looked up, and it was Cam Spencer. So Cam staying true to form. I would want nothing more, or would expect nothing less from him. And I am not someone that if you saw me outside of a show where I'm not allowed to swear on the air, I would speak very similar to Cam in those situations. So Donovan's stats are pretty interesting, right? So he's putting in kind of a hell of a show for his size. I'll ignore the first stat because it's the whole he's 7'2" barefoot, which is still impressive because then you put a pair of shoes on, dude's 7'3", 7'4". So he has a 9'7" standing reach, and that's again without shoes. So he basically can dunk a basketball without jumping, which is just winning the genetic lottery. He's cut down his weight a little bit to 282, which I think helps his mobility. He's got a 7'7" wingspan, which is amazing. He was 19 of 30 later on in the day in moving 3-point drill, 14 of 25 in spot up shooting, 7 for 10 from free throw line, which is, improving. All of these things ascending. I think that's, again, for those who are like, oh, Donovan should have stayed or Steph should have stayed. What you don't understand about the NBA is that they aren't looking at who you are today. They're looking at who you are as a finished product. They are making an investment that's typically 4 to 5 years in the first round, and that investment, they're hoping by about halfway through that contract, you're ready for that next contract because you have reached the maximum of your potential, or you're ascending to the point by the end of that contract, they are going to re-sign you for the remainder of your career. So, or at least the big chunk of it, right? The prime. So why not be in the NBA when you're 20? Be a professional if you can get that type of on-the-job training. It makes no sense for guys like Donovan and guys like Steph to sit back and be in the pros or be in college. Alex, we'll see, right? He's shot it well. I think he's shown some good flashes in individual drills. I'm interested to see where he goes. I'm interested to see if if he gets a first round grade or not, and what the decision is, because it'll be, I don't want to say studied for years, but it's a decision that is like for him, like he said, it's win-win. And I think it's win-win for us too, because if we lose Alex Karaban this year, we just get more of Jaylin Stewart. We just get more of Liam McNeeley. So no worries, guys. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. I saw on Twitter that Jared Kotler of Connecticut Scoreboard Podcast, go watch and subscribe if you haven't. He'd mentioned that we should do a UConn Twitter combine. I just want to say that I would be, and honestly, if you're listening to this on YouTube or other places, I would be more than willing to be a part of it. I think we should definitely do that. What are the drills that UConn Twitter or UConn YouTube would do? The vertical, lateral drills, free throw shooting, standstill threes, around the horn threes. But I propose we do one more, and it's a game I've been trying to push on all of you guys. It's the Dan Hurley half court challenge. And in the terms of the combine, instead of doing a full kind of 18 shots, kind of like golf, we would do, you get one shot at it, you can warm up, but like when your time is on, you have to try to make 3 half court shots in a row. So that's the new challenge, right? Because he started doing 2 shots in a row when they were going for back-to-back. So that's my proposal. I would love for us to start to rally around that. And, you guys send me videos of you. If you can do the 3-point half court or the 3 in a row half court challenge, I want to see those videos. So if you want to try that at your local gym, pace it off in your driveway. If you got a big driveway, I want to see it. Hit me up on lockedonucon@gmail.com, lockedonucon@gmail.com for anything. Show ideas, criticisms, complaints, concerns. Just want to tell me I'm doing a good job or a bad job, or I should shave my beard or whatever. Would love to hear from anybody, and send me those videos. I would love to see it. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected, make sure your toughness meter is always rising. And as always, go Huskies.